Colonel Wilkerson, who was the chief of staff for Colin Powell, has come out with some damning charges against Cheney, Rumsfeld, and Bush. He said that they knew all along, all the way up to Bush, that a majority of the initial 742 detainees at Guantanamo Bay were innocent, but it was, quote, politically impossible to release them. And he exclaimed that, or explained, I should say, that Rumsfeld and Cheney did not want to release the innocent detainees because, quote, the detention efforts would be revealed as the incredibly confused operation that they were. This was, quote, not acceptable to the administration and would have been severely detrimental to the leadership at DOD, the Department of Defense. He continued to say that Cheney and Rumsfeld knew that innocent people were languishing in Guantanamo for years, but that was justified by the broader war on terror and the small number of terrorists who were responsible for the September 11th attacks. Meaning, we don't know who's guilty, we don't know who's innocent. We know a great majority of them are innocent, but who cares? We're going to keep them in there anyway, just because if we release them, we don't know which ones are guilty, and it'll show the world that we have no idea what we're doing. We don't know why they were in there in the first place. And of course, the reality is we do know why they were in there. Bounties. And another story coming out in the British press from Andy Worthington explains that for these 5 guys who were just released, authorities knew, in some cases 8 years ago, for the Uyghurs of China, or the Uyghurs, and for another detainee, and his name is Abdul Hamid al-Ghazawi, they knew for 6 years that he was innocent. For Ghazawi, Lieutenant Colonel Abraham led a tribunal to decide whether they had enough evidence on him. And the tribunal decided, no, he's innocent, we should let him go. You know what they did? They removed that tribunal and did a, quote, redo tribunal. And they said, you arrived at the wrong conclusion. The right answer was, he's an enemy combatant. So full well known for 6 years that he was innocent, they just kept him in jail because they didn't want to release him and admit that they were wrong. Now for the Uyghurs, well, a court just ruled, or I should say in 2008 they ruled, and they ruled again recently, saying that the government's supposed evidence on them was akin to a nonsense poem by Lewis Carroll, which of course the author of the stories Alice in Wonderland. It's like they're making this stuff up. These guys are totally innocent. Now, part of the reason that they kept them in there is that they made a deal with the Chinese. They said, we know they weren't coming to get us, but they were going to work against the Chinese government, so we'll let you interrogate them if you don't object to the Iraq War. What does that tell you? They played with their lives, man. They knew they had hundreds of innocent people there. Some very specific guys, they know that guy and that guy is innocent, but we're going to keep him in there for 8 years in prison in Guantanamo Bay because it serves our political purposes. You know who does that? Sick, depraved people like Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld.